Hello, everybody. It's Mahadeva. All right, so I want to continue the discussion that I started on the upload that I did yesterday. I don't have a lot of time today, so if people come on and they have questions, I'll try and get to the questions as quickly as possible. But I think this is really important. For me, I like to simplify things. I like to get to the bottom line. Just get me to the bottom line. Really, tell me what I have to do. Tell me what you need me to do to accomplish whatever it is that we're supposed to accomplish. So, when it comes to what this channel is about your highest spiritual potential, your spiritual destiny. And I don't even want to put a word onto what that is. But, we could talk about meditation, we could talk about energy work, we can talk about the gods, we can talk about history, we can talk about language, we can talk about all these things that I love to talk about. But the bottom line is that the only thing that really matters in the end is if you are self-empowered. This is what it means when Odin died to himself. Odin sacrificed himself to himself. And when he did that, the runes, which are the mysteries of the universe, revealed themselves to him. And he became the master. He became the All-Father. He became the king of the gods. He wasn't the king of the gods before that. If we're talking about mythology, in other Indo-European traditions, we don't hear about Odin. And the king of the gods in the Indo-European traditions is always the Sky Father. The Father, the celestial Father, the heavenly Father. So you see that in pretty much every tradition. You see that in the ancient Chinese tradition. You see it all over the place. The Sky Father is the ruler of the universe, etc., etc. In the Vedic tradition, which became the Hindu tradition, it first starts out literally as Sky Father, and then it becomes Shiva, which means auspicious. Shiva and Odin are the same being. We talk about that in other videos, but I'm getting off the point. The point is to be self-empowered. And when people talk about how do they protect themselves from negativity, like how do they fight against demons? People who come onto the channel all the time and want to talk about they've got demons in their life. There's negative entities coming after them. Give me the one mantra, or give me the this, or can you fix me with that? And then they don't like it when I tell them that, well, nobody, especially no negative entity, can do anything to you without your permission. Nobody likes to hear that. We talk about, the best way so far that I've found to describe it is you've got two choices. You've got the internal locus of control or the external locus of control. And the internal locus of control is that you determine your own internal experience. External locus of control means that something outside of you is determining your experience. Your internal state of being, your state of fulfillment, your state of happiness. You and only you ultimately must be the one who's in control of that. Now, the problem with that is that people, I can already feel it. People hear me say that and they want to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm responsible for my destiny. I'm in control of my life. But saying it and doing it are two different things. And so just because I say that the end result, the point of all of this is that you have the internal locus of control for your experience, that you are responsible for your state of being, your internal experience of yourself, your fulfillment, your happiness. You are responsible. Just because I tell you that, and just because you say, okay, and you start repeating that to yourself, well, you and I both know that's not necessarily going to change how you feel. So in order to feel spiritual, this is what happens in cults and churches and just, popular culture, anything. Then the next thing that happens is people will start saying it. Oh yeah, I'm in control of I have an internal locus of control and I determine for myself. But that's not the reality for them. The reality for them is that something outside of them does it. A good example again is a narcissist, and I'm talking about like somebody who's has a personality disorder, full-blown, narcissistic personality disorder person. If I were to say, a spiritual person is somebody who has complete control within themselves over how they feel. Narcissist would be the first one to say, yeah, of course, I have total control over everything. I have control over myself. I have control over how I feel, but they're not. So you can't fake it. If you don't have an internal locus of control, even if you tell yourself that, even if you convince yourself of that, even if you walk around saying it and you don't have it, you will eventually say something that will prove that you think it's something outside of you that is controlling your state of being. So the spiritual practice, the spiritual discipline is the work that you do in order to get the result of being in a state where you are the locus of control. Now I use the narcissist as an example, but people who are very controlling, who are abusive and controlling, the irony is that they have no control within themselves. And so controlling other people gives them a false sense of safety and satisfaction, because it gets rid of their fear, their chaos, when they're controlling, abusing, whatever it is they do to something outside of them. When you hear about little kids that turn into violent offenders or serial killers, you find out as little kids they'll do things like torture bugs or animals. And that's because they have control. They find something weaker than themselves that they can control. Now there's other things going on as well, but that's because they have no control over their life, so they're going to control something else. People who self-harm, like people who cut themselves. People who cut themselves are people who at least they have control over that. There was a Family Guy cartoon and something funny and strange and was going on. Of course, if it were real life, it would be horrific, but it's a cartoon. And the two kids are on the stairs, and they're pulling their hair out, and they say, "At least I have control over this," as they're pulling their hair out. Of course, that was hilarious, but that's what it is. That was the perfect way of describing it. Self-harm, self-sabotage, disease is another way. So whenever you feel out of control and you aren't doing the work and the discipline to get the control, then you're going to at some point reveal that your locus of control is outside of you. And again, the difficulty is you have to be honest. So you can't just pretend that nothing's bothering you. You can't pretend that you feel out of control. That doesn't solve it. Just saying, yes, I have locus of control within me, I don't let anything bother me, that's not going to cut it. You have to be honest. And so the person who has internal locus of control, you'll also find, doesn't put a lot of effort into trying to control other things, which is what I was trying to talk about yesterday. Yesterday I listed some things. I said, what do all of these movements and all of these belief systems have in common? And I listed neo-Nazis, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Trumpism, QAnon, organized religion, militant vegans, National Rifle Association. I mean, we could go on. I mean, you just pick it. The organization for the betterment of the something or other. Anything that has a strong belief behind it. The one thing that they hold in common that gives them purpose is that they believe that something outside of them is controlling their internal environment, that is responsible for their feelings. And this is one of the things that happens when you become more and more self-empowered. The need for romantic relationships starts to get less and less, because you no longer feel the desire to have something outside of you meet your needs. And so this is really why monks and spiritual practitioners off in the mountains are celibate, as opposed to the ones that force themselves to do it and then they end up sexually abusing other people out of denial. But if you are self-empowered, at some point it becomes less and less important to have other people in your life in that way. But here's what you get out of it. You get the power of choice. When your internal locus of control, when your locus of control is internal, the reason I'm expecting it's not going to be for a while. I've got a massage coming here today. I forgot what I was saying. It was brilliant, whatever the hell it was. But it had to do with internal locus of control. Anyway, you can't lie to yourself. So just because I tell you the goal of everything, I don't care what it is, the goal of everything is to have an internal locus of control. You can't lie to yourself if you don't feel that. So the razor that you have to walk is the acknowledgement that you don't have control, that you feel out of control in your life, you feel out of control about everything around you, everybody around you, and you, most important, don't have the control to change how you feel at the drop of a hat. 99% of the questions that come to me on the live stream or in personal sessions are people wanting me to give them some tip so that they can feel better. I mean, you've seen it, you've heard it, especially when I talk about soul desire, or when I talk about the challenge that you have to go through when you go after your soul desire, the fear, the insecurity, the doubt, the confusion. And people will say, can you give me a key to how do I get over my fear of, and I say, who said you were supposed to get over your fear? I never said you're supposed to get over your fear. Because I'm helping you understand that an internal locus of control means that you don't even control yourself. You don't try and stop yourself from having a feeling. But you are required to regulate your own internal, emotional, psychological state of being. If you are out of control, that's okay. You have to acknowledge that before you can move on. But what is the one thing that all those things have in common? As I said, they all believe that if we take care of that thing outside of us, we'll be okay. Somebody left a comment about QAnon. I don't even remember in the video mentioning. I think I may have mentioned QAnon. I think I may have mentioned Trumpism. And I threw out some things about, what is it Trumpism wants to do? Well, among other things, they want to build a wall so they can keep the undocumented immigrants out. And if they can do that, it'll be okay. And that's, again, politics. People will get so furious over their politician. And here's the thing, I've been alive for 57 years, and every single election that's come up says, this is the most important election in the history of our country, and if we don't elect so and so, the whole country will fall apart. And when whichever candidate goes in, whatever side you're on, you're like, yay, our guy got in, now we're going to fix all the problems. None of the problems get fixed. What problems has Trump fixed? Nothing. Did he build a wall? No. He made a bunch of, he made a bunch of executive orders. And I'm not even saying whether or not his philosophy was right or wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying, just look at what he did. A bunch of executive orders. As soon as Biden got in, he reversed them. And Trump was reversing literally dismantling and destroying everything that Obama and Biden had done before him. So it's, every 4 or 8 years, somebody comes in and just destroys what the guy did before him. Clinton balanced the budget. Think whatever you want about the Clintons. Clinton, I was alive. He balanced the budget. And there was a surplus. It was the first time in modern history something like that had happened. And as soon as Bush came in, that was gone. He just destroyed that and then got us into debt. It doesn't matter. The point is that nobody outside of you is going to save you. What are you going to do if the United States does fall apart? Then what? Then what are you going to do? Who are you going to look to? There's only one place you can look, and that's within yourself. It's the only place. And the thing about within yourself, I keep pointing to my heart center for a reason, because what is in your heart center? Your soul. So the only thing that matters is the degree to which you live from your soul. And this is the video game. The video game is trying to get through all of the illusion and the confusion to get to your soul and operate from there. And if you can do that, then it won't matter. It won't matter what country you live in. It won't matter what the weather is like. It won't matter what the economy is. None of those things will matter. I mean, they might affect you. You might be a part of it. You might have feelings about it, but it won't affect your internal state of being. You can be with people and they can love you or hate you, and it won't determine your state of being. It's all, the most important things in life come down to the basics. The basics of individuation. Individuation is a psychological term that means that you are able to tolerate your own feelings without having to either act on them or suppress them. And you're able to tolerate other people's negative feelings about you. I mean, in some cases, they're positive feelings as well. You're able to let people have their own feelings, and you don't need to change them. You're not dependent upon their view of you. And at the same time, you have compassion and love and tolerance for them. Now, some people say, I don't care what somebody thinks. That's not the same. That's them pretending that they aren't affected, and so they murder them. That's what's happening when somebody commits murder. When somebody commits murder, what they're saying is that person has complete control over them. And in order to feel like I have control, they have to go and kill that person. That's why this happens in crimes of passion. Somebody you were in love with a year ago who was your soulmate, they'll go in and, crimes of passion. They'll kill the person because they slept with somebody else. What that's saying is that my feelings, either my happiness or my rage, is a direct result of you. And since you're not making me happy and you're making me full of rage and you make me feel bad or sad, they think by killing the other person it'll kill the bad feeling inside of them. And of course it doesn't. It's the ultimate expression of external locus of control. So everything that I'm teaching is about that. And I'm really struck with that, especially after, a couple of the comments that came from the video that I did yesterday. Let me see if I can find one. It just struck me that this really is everything, and this is where I'm going to lose people. I'm now at the third time in the history of this channel. I'm now at 20,000 subscribers. I got to 20,000, and then I started doing that parody on, which is the same thing. I was saying the same thing, the parody on the reptilians, and I lost a bunch of people over that. And then I made some political videos. I shared my personal thoughts and opinions about what's going on politically, and I lost a bunch of people over that. So I'm back to 20,000 again for the third time. Let's see if I'm able to move past that. But somebody left a comment on the channel about the video I did yesterday. Let's see if I can find it. I'm sure I will. By the way, those of you listening who leave comments and then erase them, I still see them because they come up in my email. So my email will tell me, oh, you got a comment. And I'll go and look for that comment, and I won't be able to find it. And I know that that's somebody who put the comment and then erased it. So just know, every time you put a comment, I still see it, even if you erase it. And there's one guy that keeps coming, I won't even mention his name. One guy keeps coming up, and he knows who he is, and he leaves a very specific comment, and then he erases it. And it's always the same phrase every time. And so I don't even have to, just because you erased it, I can still find you and block you. So he keeps making new accounts just so he can say that weird thing. But I'll just keep blocking him. Let's see if I can find it. So if you remember yesterday, I was trying to give you opposites. What are all of these belief systems and religions and etc. organizations, what do they all share in common? And I used opposites so that you knew I wasn't trying to focus on one specific thing. I said, what does Black Lives Matter and neo-Nazis have in common? They both have an external locus of control. What do the liberal left and Trumpism have in common? Right? And then I tried to make just slight examples about what is it that they want. Black Lives Matter says we got to get rid of the police. So that'll get rid of racism somehow. And, Antifa says we got to get rid of government. And that'll somehow fix everything. Trump says we got to do this. And then somebody says, your interpretation of Trumpism or Q is incorrect. I'm like, what? I mean, I barely said anything. And let's see, let's read this. This is going to be somebody who can't verbalize that they have an external locus of control. This is the kind of craziness that goes on inside your head, all the gobbledygook to keep you away from the truth, which is that thing out there is doing it to me. And if I can just change that, control that, or kill that, then I'll be okay. I'd have more respect for you if you could just say that. I might disagree with you, but at least have the ability to know that that's what it is. If I could just do that and fix that, it'll all be okay. And this person says, my interpretation, talking about me, of Trumpism or Q is incorrect. I didn't even mention Q. I don't know about others. Trumpism is whatever happens before the actual understanding of what situation humanity finds itself in. So right there, you've got your external locus of control. Whatever happens before the actual understanding of what situation humanity finds itself in. So what this person is saying is the situation that humanity finds itself in, that's what's important. To become aware of what's outside of you, humanity. I'm here to tell you that's meaningless. Society, humanity is going to do whatever it's going to do, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You might be able to influence it. If there's been studies done that if people meditate, groups of people meditate, and I've talked about it in one specific study, a group of people meditated to reduce the crime rate in their area. And as long as they were meditating and they were just doing Zen meditation, crime rates went down. They stopped meditating, crime rates went up. So you can influence it, but you can't control it. They didn't stop crime. They didn't get rid of it. But what did they do? They took care of themselves. They were meditating. They weren't out picketing. They weren't out storming the Capitol. They were meditating. They were taking responsibility for their own internal state of being. I'm quite certain they felt more calm and centered and comfortable and fulfilled as a result of their meditations. And what's the end result of that? The crime rate went down. So the ironic thing is when you don't try and tell people what to do, when you don't get into their business and you take care of yourself, people start to follow that. There's this quantum entanglement. The more that you focus on it's outside of you that needs to be fixed, whatever it is, the government, the gods, Jesus, Satan, I don't care what the hell it is, then that quantum entanglement makes people around you more and more uncomfortable and more feeling out of control and more needing to control you or other things. So the quantum entanglement says you take care of yourself and that will help other people find their center. So anyways, I think this is all nonsense what this person is saying. And again, why they had to focus on Q, I don't know. I think I mentioned QAnon once and I didn't even say anything about what they believe on purpose for this very reason. Q is about knowledge and situational awareness. Why do you need situational awareness? That's outside of you. I'm not saying not to be ignorant of your situation. But, somehow the feeling that if you have this in-depth secret knowledge of situational awareness, what's that going to do for you? How does that help you? What has changed over the past, however long human beings have been around? 2.5 million years or 500,000 years or whatever it is. Modern humans. What has changed? Nothing. The same things that we're doing now is the same stuff that's happened. This is the one thing I've learned over and over. I really don't see a lot of evolution. I see a lot of technology, but I don't see a lot of evolution. Same problems that were going on 1,000 years ago, 5,000, 10,000 years ago. This is going on now. The only difference is that we have more stuff. There's more of us. We're not hunter-gatherers anymore. But the same problem, we're still a bunch of chimpanzees running around. With clothes on. Q is about knowledge and situational awareness. Ignorance being the internal enemy. Ignorance being the internal enemy. There is no religion or ideology. There is lack of Here's again the external locus of control. What this person is going to say is that I don't know what's happening outside of me. So this is the opposite of internal locus of control. External locus meaning if you don't know what's going on outside of you, then they'll control you. Now they've said it in a way where they're not owning up to that, but that's what they're going to say. There is lack of information. There is no lack of information, I can tell you that. The ironic thing is that QAnoners will tell you that we're being lied to, we're being manipulated. They, the media, the whatever, is lying to us. And so what do? They don't trust anything. This is true by all of society is guilty of this, by the way. You can talk to anybody on any side of the political or spiritual spectrum. They're going to say the same thing. They're going to say, I can't trust the mainstream media. I can't trust big business. I can't trust the government. They don't trust anything that has any official source of information. But they trust their next door neighbor. They trust the guy on Twitter. They trust the guy on Facebook. They trust Q. So she says there is a lack of information. And yet the information that she's getting is from some anonymous person who only speaks by code, and nobody even knows who the hell this person is. Nobody can verify who it is. I'm going to believe that guy, but I won't believe whatever source of information you want to look at. I'm not saying to believe or not believe anything. Point is that it's completely dependent on what's outside of this person. This person thinks information is what's going to save them. And information is stuff that comes out from outside of you. By following information correctly, discerning, you find yourself at the conclusion that we are very powerful beings in a very bad situation due to our, laced understanding. I don't know what that means. In a very bad situation due to our laced understanding of ourselves and how we got here. None of that means anything. None of it. The only thing that matters is that you not have knowledge, but that you have an actual, real connection to your infinite soul. Your soul is everything. When you're looking outside of yourself for something, you've got a treasure chest filled with gold coins, and you are digging holes in everybody else's yard looking for the treasure. And you're carrying it around your neck. You've got this giant diamond that you're carrying around your neck, and you're looking around trying to get it from somebody else, from somewhere else. You are the one that has all of the control. That's what this is all about. This 90-day challenge, the thing that I'm teaching now, is all about tapping into the power of the soul. I cannot be responsible for how you handle that power once it starts to flow out of you. You will have to die. You have to turn your perception upside down. The perception that you've been living off, which is what this reality is designed to make you feel, that you are a tiny being in this huge thing, and you have to figure your way out, and you have to find some control because things can happen to you, and there are other things out there more powerful than you. And if you can tap into that power and die to all of the illusion, which will be painful. There was a reason why Odin, when he died to himself, he let out a scream. And screaming, he took up the runes. He was dying to himself. Your attachments to what you think you are, your attachments to what you think reality is, your attachments to what you think you need to do to protect yourself. Because being infinite is a frightening thing. All right, I'm babbling. Let's see what the questions are before my masseuse gets here. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. You can go to his channel and get a reading from him if you like. He's one of my certified astrologers. Jesse Lehman, if you're new to my channel, the way this works is you write the word question, please. Write it in all caps, the word in all caps, question, and then you can write normally. You don't have to scream at me in all caps, but that way I'll see it. If there's a lot of comments, and I want to be able to get your question. So we don't have control, but we have control. I don't understand your question. Be more specific about that. It's more like the answer to your question is yes, because that's what a koan is. This is why Buddhists have koans. Those, in the Taoist tradition, what I was taught was strength is no strength. What does that mean? You got to meditate on it. Control is no control. It means that when you don't exert control, you have 100% control. When you have all the control, guess what? You have no control. What do people say about having money? The more money you have, the more problems you have. Right? So the more control you have, the less control you have. The less control you have, the more control you'll gain. And the less effort you put, the more you get out of it. Lao Tzu said something about if you want to accomplish something, or if you want to control people, you have to make them think it's their idea, things like that. Which means you have to look as though you're not controlling anything. And even so, he says, just sitting in my room doing nothing, I've traveled the world. So by sitting and going nowhere, I've gone everywhere. And you can go everywhere and not have understood anything about yourself. So those koans are there for a reason. J. Cloudy Developed says, I'm stuck in my negative feelings and emotions. I'm guilty of everything you were speaking of. So what are you doing about it? I don't know if you are. I don't know if you're doing, this is why we have teachers, why we have mentors, why we have counselors. This is why we have, this is why people come together in groups. You can't do this thing alone. So I don't know I don't know enough about you to know what you would need to do to get unstuck out of your negative feelings. But the first step is to have all of your feelings and not try and do anything about them. Don't take action on them. Don't let your impulses drive you, and don't stuff them down. So that in itself is a tough place to be. And that is the meditation. The meditation isn't to be free of challenges. The meditation is to have all of your issues and not have to do anything about it. And this is self-acceptance. This is, by the way, when it comes down to, I think I said earlier, it comes down to individuation. As I said, individuation means that you tolerate yourself with your own feelings, and you also tolerate everybody else with their feelings. Even if they hate you, you tolerate it. You go, oh, okay. It doesn't reflect on you. Now that doesn't mean that's easy, but you learn how to just let people be who they are, and you let yourself be who you are. So even if you don't meet your expectations, you accept yourself exactly as you are. It starts there. I mean, everything, every skill. This is why everything comes down to this. You want to be a good basketball player. You want to be a fencer. You want to be a singer. You want to be a dancer. It starts with just being aware of yourself and knowing that you have to start somewhere, and not at the same time being aware of everything that you're doing without judging any of it, but being aware of what your limitations are and overcoming them. So, the people who are really masterful are people who are also very subtle. I was listening to some different artists, and their voices are phenomenal. And you can tell their mastery because they very rarely belt big, loud sounds. They're very controlled, but the subtlety. If they wanted to prove how amazing they were, they could just belt out these amazing, but they don't do that because they don't need to. Because they have nothing to prove. Because they have such mastery over their art that even if at a whisper, it's just amazing what they can do with their voice. So you have to be aware of yourself without trying to control yourself, and at the same time wanting to improve, wanting to move beyond your limitations. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I feel more in control of my life doing these practices. My family and I have noticed subtle changes in me, and I can say that my life has gotten better as a result of these practices. He's doing the Warrior 90-day Lightning Qigong, so congratulations. That makes me happy to hear that, because that's the whole point of this. I'm not a spiritual teacher because I need a following. Nobody where I live knows what I do. I don't share it with anybody because I just don't care. I do this for two reasons: because I need to get it out, and number two, I need to make a living. If I didn't need to do that, I wouldn't. I have no need for any followers. I have no personal need for people to like me or anything like that. And my goal is to give you the power so that you can be empowered within yourself. You can be your own guru. But as again, as ironic as that is, in order to become your own guru, you must have one. You must find somebody who is self-empowered so that they can, without agenda, show you how to do it. And that's what I want. I want exactly what he said. He's getting power within himself. It's exactly what I want. And I want to give you the tools, and then you go do it. Boot whip. All comes down to raising heart-centered consciousness. That's a great saying, but what does that mean? I mean, anybody can say what you just said. I'm not disagreeing with it. But it's, we got to get beyond the superficial. More than that. Heart-centered consciousness can mean anything. You can have heart-centered consciousness and be wrapped up in your insecurity, your loneliness. That's what cults are. Cults are the negative of the heart-centered consciousness. The soul lives in the heart. That part is true. The heart is the gateway to the soul. But we have to go even beyond the heart. The heart is the container. We have to go beyond that and get to the soul itself, the infinity of the soul. This is what the spiritual discipline, all spiritual disciplines, all discipline period is all about this, whether we realize it or not. Okay, Jay Cloudy Developed says, I have realized that I am disgustingly weak and egotistical. It's hard not to be ashamed. So that's a judgment. All of that is a judgment. In terms of being weak, I can tell you that if you want the power to bring down, I mean, the most incredible power you could summon, it has to start from a place of vulnerability. That was the hardest thing that I had to learn in the energetic martial art that I practiced. In order to, for me, if I wanted to take somebody out, it would be I would barely tap them. And it's so hard on the ego, especially with guys. We're all full of muscle and testosterone. We feel better when we're throwing our weight behind something. But if you tap into the energy, and you just learn how to tap somebody, they'll fall. Broken bones, they'll just crumble to the ground. And it's the most crazy, weird thing you've ever seen and experienced. But you have to start from a place of weakness. So that's a judgment. Strength is no strength. So if you're weak, good. Now stop judging yourself for it. Sorry. Stop judging yourself for it. You're egotistical. Good for you. Egotistical means that you have an identity. There's nothing wrong with having an ego. Ego means I. If you don't have an ego, you can't function. Egotistical is a judgment, meaning that you have too much ego, but the truth is that people have too much ego are people who are insecure. So what you're really saying is that you're insecure. So the way we respond to insecurity is by puffing ourselves up, just like a puffer fish. We make ourselves look bigger than we really are. Narcissists this is what they're all about. That's why Trump is a stable genius. And he's, done more than anybody ever has in the entire world. Well, it's obvious he doesn't feel that way about himself, or he wouldn't have to make those kinds of statements. So stop judging yourself so hard. You're 26 and I have zero clue what the fuck I'm doing. Oh, well, good for you. I'm 57 and I'm just figuring it out. So 26 is young. You're not even, according to Vedic astrology, you're not even an adult yet. You won't be an adult until you're 35. So you're not supposed to know what you're doing until you're 35 anyway, so you're right on time. Stop judging yourself. The truth you speak of brings me peace and hope. I'm glad to hear that. Change your inner world. Let's see what Boot Whip says. Change your inner world and your outer world changes as within as without. Yes, that's true. We are still faced mostly by our biggest subsidies. Okay, so again, people dumping opinions and quotes. Usually, it's not. The two things that really get you somewhere is if you ask an honest question and share an honest feeling. Those are the two things that I'm going to respond best to. You telling us how wise you are, or even agreeing with me, you tend to put a target on yourself. I tend to want to slice that to pieces. That's just me. So that's why I suggest people ask questions. Let's see what else. Rochelle, I'm waiting for the question. Thunder Wizard, you did my Vedic, and if not knowledge, what am I seeking with others? I don't know what you're asking. You say knowledge is addictive. I admit it. It is an Achilles heel of mine. You want to know how people tick because you want to control them. Now, I don't know what other reasons. I also love understanding people, but I do it because I want to figure myself out. I was an actor for years, and I didn't realize it at the time, but to truly be an actor, you have to really get into the deepest psyche of somebody and know what makes them do whatever. And you create these really weird psyches and other, in your characters that you play. And all of that helped me to examine myself, because in order to know what a character wanted, I have to ask myself, what is it I really want? And what I didn't know what I was asking myself was, what are my unconscious agendas? It's easy to do that when you're playing somebody else because it's not really you, and you can go deep, but we don't do it to ourselves. So without knowing you more, you want to know how other people tick so you can control them. And you want to control them because you want them to love you. So you figure the more that you can control, the more you know about them, the more you can control them, and the safer you'll be. So if not knowledge, what am I seeking with others? I don't know, but we all want, some basic things. We all want to be loved. We all want to be heard. We all want to be connected with. All of those people who stormed the Capitol think they were doing it because they wanted to, do whatever it is they were trying to do to get Trump elected again. But that's not what they wanted. What they wanted was to be heard and to be loved and to be seen. That was what their goal was. All of them. Or they wouldn't have shown up there. That's why people love Trump. That's because people say Trump says what we're all feeling. Well, no, he says what you're feeling. Definitely doesn't say what I'm feeling. He says what you're feeling. And that's true with everybody. I'm right now, there's an artist that I'm obsessed with. I mean, I'm not really obsessed, but I fantasize about, wow, if I could get that person and talk to them, we're both so, it's what I really want is I want somebody to see, my brilliance. And that's my projection onto them. And so, Trump spouting somebody said, I like Trump because he shares his feelings and it's real. And I said, well, what are you talking about? And I mentioned some other politician on the other, and I said, that person shares their feelings and they're passionate. Why don't you like them? Because they're not saying what you feel. He's obviously saying things that you feel, and so you think he's telling the truth, and you have equated truth with your narcissistic feelings. That's not objective truth. It might be, but it doesn't mean just because somebody shares your feelings that they have truth. So you're wanting to know people and know how they tick, so you can find out where they are, so you can connect with them and have them love you. I could be wrong. That generally speaking is probably the case. Lightning Lizard question: is someone who is hell-bent on revenge stuck in victim mentality? Yes. What advice would you give to someone who has an emotional attachment to revenge and retaliation? I don't know. You have to be more specific. What's her name? Did she cheat on you? You need to get some counseling. I'd go get a counselor and talk about it in all seriousness. There's the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. When you don't care. When you don't care about somebody, you don't love them. If you want to kill somebody and destroy them, it means that you need them. There's something that you want from them, even if it's just as simple as wanting them to like you or respect you. You're afraid of them. Maybe you want them to give you the right to exist. You're afraid. This is racists. Seriously, when you hear that phrase that racists say, you will not replace me. When they say you, they mean whatever other race that they don't like. They're so insecure that they think that somebody who's different from them is so powerful and so frightening that just by existing and being different and multiplying, that they have the ability to erase their existence. And so they hate those people. But in reality, they don't. Underneath all of that, they desperately want all of those Africans and Mexicans and Muslims to say, I really like you, white, trash, redneck, country beer drinking, mullet wearing. I really like you. I think you're an amazing person and the world is better because you're in it. That's really what they want. They're so afraid, they're so insecure that somebody's going to wipe their existence out, that they can only focus on the most simple thing, which is the difference. What's different about you? You have a different colored skin. Even though that person ethnically, genetically might be more connected to them than the other white guy they're sitting next to. The white guy from Estonia actually has more genetic connections to East Asians than he does to Western Europeans. And that other guy that he thinks is, he should string up because he's an African American is actually 60% European and has more European blood in him than the other Estonian guy next to him, the Russian guy. But they don't know that because they only look at, superficial things. So, you need some help. I can't help you because I don't know. If I knew what it was, I would be able to counsel you, and that would probably take some time. You need some help. I would go get some counseling from somebody. Ganunga Greg says, hello Mahadeva, I'm reading the fraudulent but brilliant books of Carlos Castaneda on this channel that I'm typing this. So you can go and click on his channel, Ganunga-Greg. And I would recommend that. It's interesting that he's doing that. He's, by the way, one of my apprentices. I was going to do a series on that. I talked myself out of it. Obviously, now I know why, because Ganunga Greg is doing it for me. I love Castaneda's work. He's a total fraud. He either stole or made up everything, but he channeled a lot of information. And the only thing, when he gets to the end of the books, he's a narcissist, by the way, if you want to find out. I would love to slice that apart and show you how narcissists think, and what narcissists are really all about. It's amazing. His books are amazing, except for the last book where he talks about the nature of God. Then he reveals, his projection, which is he thinks God is a narcissist that wants to consume everything. So you can go to his channel. He also has a YouTube music channel, by the way, which is also really cool. ASMR Intent. The letters ASMR and then the word intent. So go check him out. Okay, Rochelle B. Okay, so wanting to fix them. So Rochelle, I want you to go check out my channel, my other channel, which is Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup. I want you to go on that channel and I want you to watch my videos about codependence. Your desire to fix them is actually a desire to destroy them. Because you think what you want to do is help them. Your conscious feeling is full of love and you want to fix them. You want to make them feel better. The truth is, their uncomfortable feelings is a problem for you because they're feeling what you don't want to let yourself feel. So you're trying to smother and destroy their feelings or fix them so that you don't have to have your negative feelings. This is why, people who are codependent, people who are ass kissers, people who are people pleasers, this is why they're actually extremely violent people. Not in their actions or their words, but like for instance, when I was, my fiance passed away, and we were having a ceremony at the beach, and they asked me to speak, and I started tearing up and choking up, and one of the girls there was going, "Hey, it's okay. Look at how beautiful the sunset is. She would want you to be happy, and she would look at the ocean. It's okay. Don't cry." I didn't say anything at the time, but what I wanted to say was, "Hey, leave me the fuck alone. Just because you don't feel comfortable crying right now, I do. Don't control my feelings just because you're uncomfortable with sadness and pain." Because that's what was really going on. She was saying, "Stop it. Stop having those feelings. Stop crying. You're making me uncomfortable. Knock it off. But it comes out with, no, it's okay, look. So your desire to fix people is because you need their approval, and you're going to force it from them by fixing them. Whereas if you really loved them, you'd let them stay broken. Somebody comes to you and asks for your help, that's different. But your need to figure people out and know that, listen, it takes one to know one. So I'm not calling anything that I myself haven't experienced. See what else? I don't know where that's coming from. That's another issue. Boot whip. All right. I don't see anything else here that I want to comment on. All right, so that's it for me. I do have a masseuse coming later today. I have to deal with some disappointment. I went surfing today. The waves were big, and I took a fall, and I bruised my ribs. That means I can't surf at least for a week, if not 2 weeks. I'm so bummed. So I have to live up to what I'm saying. I have to be responsible for my own internal state of being. You know, surfing is great, but it's an external thing. So I have to, I can't do a lot of things. I won't be able to go to the gym. I'll have to figure out some new ways to keep myself entertained. So hopefully I'll be making some more videos as a result. So bottom line is, everybody, if you're new to the channel, go to thunderwizard.com, click around for Warrior 90-Day Challenge. This so far is the pinnacle of the energy teaching that I'm offering, and it will give you access to the soul. If you're able to live through the transformations that will come, you will more and more be able to be responsible for your own internal state of being. You will more and more be able to be happy from within yourself, regardless of what other people do or don't do. And the most wonderful thing that I've noticed is that no matter what's going on in the world, I'm always taken to the most peaceful, protected place, always. I ended up here during the pandemic, and I've been here in Queensland, Australia, not having to wear a mask, and everybody walks around, and I got beautiful beaches and forests and cockatoos and parrots and, you know, giant bats the size of German shepherds with wings, and you know, and I get to just live my life, and that's a result of that. I listened to my soul, and my soul told me where to go. All right, we're all done. Thanks, guys. I'll see you when I see you.